Welcome to Ladies Talking Leafs. I'm Chris,
And I'm Sil.
and welcome to is this November or December edition? I guess
a good question.
It's the end of November, so we're
Yes.
covering November.
Yes,
so
this is our November monthly recap show.
recap show. And there was a lot, obviously, as to what happened. But first of all, we'll say happy Thanksgiving to our U.S. listeners. I don't know if we have any. Maybe we will. Who knows? But happy Thanksgiving weekend. We are recording at that time. So hopefully everybody has a safe holiday and lots of food.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, at the end of the show, we'll have to say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and all that too, because we won't be talking again to you guys until after Christmas and around New Year time. Yeah, yeah. Anyhow, let's get to our Leafs. Never a dull moment in Leafland.
Yeah, just when you think things might settle down, no.
So the team just didn't look right, like in the first quarter of the season. I think we both, I don't know. There's just something that wasn't going well.
For me, the thing that I really noticed is that in the last 2 years, and I think you would agree, it's been so much fun to watch them. Like even when we're at the games, like there's an energy, I don't know. It's like one of the things I said to you is like, we used to high five each other so many times during game. My hand hasn't been sore all season. So
that is true. We do high five.
It's just been not as fun to watch. And so something definitely, like you said, just has looked off.
Yeah. So bottom line, the coach took the fall, right? Babcock was fired on November 20th.
Which is hockey firing day, apparently.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was funny how they were going on about how the coaching change came at this. It was like the day after St. Louis did the same thing last year. And then everybody's like, oh, we're going to win the Stanley Cup. It's like, come on.
Yeah, let's take a little bit of a chill pill there. But.
Get real. Certainly, right? This is the Maple Leafs we're talking about.
But I think what they're kind of saying is that, and actually, to be honest, they still, with Berube from November, they were still in last place starting in
they still weren't
January.
good.
So it did take a while. It wasn't like an overnight turnaround with them for sure.
But basically, the Babcock firing, I guess leading up to it, like they had the same bad habits all the time. They had like giving up the first goal, the inconsistent play, the poor special teams. And then there was the disaster in Pittsburgh.
That's right.
That basically that did him.
And
in
I would
that
say
game.
too, Babcock also had his own personal bad coaching habits too, which was really mainly his inflexibility. He just was not willing to switch things up. Like I don't know. For me, when you're in a funk, it's not going to help you get out of it if you're doing the same thing every day over and over, thinking you're going to get a different result. So,
and the changes, he did make some minor changes, but it wasn't anything major, let's just say, right? Like it was always with the fourth line. The thing that I couldn't stand is when they scored a goal and he would put the fourth line out there on the next shift.
That was definitely a bone of contention for sure.
I just don't understand why you would do that. So, so basically they've given up in 19 out of 26 games now, I guess. They've given up the first goal. So that's not a good stat.
So even though they kept saying start on time, and that's been the mantra for the last 3 or 4 years, apparently it's fallen on deaf ears now.
Yeah,
and they don't really care about starting on time anymore, or they didn't.
Yeah, and the inconsistent play. I mean, like you're saying, not starting on time, and then generally they would pick it up in the second period, but they were always playing catch-up hockey sort of thing. So that just didn't. Eventually, it was going to do them in, and it did. And with Austin Matthews, I mean, he was actually the perfect example of the inconsistency, I thought, because there were some nights where he wasn't playing bad, but you didn't even notice him. Right? That was like the game in Philly at the beginning of the month, and then the game against the Islanders also, that he wasn't. It's not just him, too, but it's just that he's the franchise player. So you expect to see him somehow with his flashes of brilliance somehow, but then
that's part of the fun that we've been missing, like there's certain things like that you can kind of see when something's sort of starting
Yeah.
And we just never really saw those starts, that kind of that hint of brilliance. That was just kind of the anticipation of that. Like, it just wasn't really happening.
Yeah.
So,
And then that Pittsburgh game. I don't know. I wonder how
Yeah.
many of you out there actually watched that whole game. It was painful. I did. I mean, I've watched in the past. I'll never forget. I actually listened on the radio. I think they're actually playing Buffalo. It was a long time ago, but when we used to listen on the radio, because they didn't.
I still listen.
They didn't.
Sometimes
Yeah,
at work.
sometimes if you're
Or in the
driving
car.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember sitting in my bedroom listening on the radio when they didn't have all the road games on on TV, and they lost 14-4. But there I was listening to them. I think it was against Buffalo too, but I'm not quite sure. That was back in the 80s, of course. But yeah, so that was not a good night.
Yeah. So for all of you
But-
who think that this is as bad as it's ever going to get, no.
No, there's been
It's
some.
been much, much worse
Yeah.
in our past, but
But on a positive, I guess, one positive during, while Babs was with us, anyways, as the coach, Hyman came back, and he seems to have not, considering is a pretty major injury, and he missed a lot of time. He's played pretty well, his being himself, being that the digger, grinding kind of guy, getting the puck out in the corner, that sort of thing. So I don't know. I think that he's, but then we lose Mitch.
yeah. So there's that thing is that it just, everything, the other, I think, thing that I would say is that everything has felt leading up to this so hard. It's like, even if we're in a game, like, it just felt like a grind constantly. Like, and then, we get Hyman back, but then Mitch goes down, and then we also lose Trevor Moore, and everything's just felt so hard. And that's not something we've felt like in the last, 2 years, really, I would say, for sure. Like, nothing has ever felt like that. Even when we're like in a little bit of a funk, it's just never felt so hard.
Yeah. So, like you said, it just didn't seem. There was no fun in the game anymore. You could just see it on their faces. So Babcock got fired on the 20th of November, and I don't know. I thought after that Pittsburgh game, it was like, I thought it was the players quitting, basically, to me. I think it was partially that, maybe with some of them, maybe not all of them. But then, because after the after the Arizona game, I guess that was his first game, right? Sheldon Keefe, the Arizona game. Yes, yeah,
Right. Yeah.
Yes,
Vegas game
that's
was
his first
the last one.
Yeah. So the Arizona game, when they did the pregame interviews, like I guess who were they interviewing? Travis Dermott. They were interviewing,
Right.
and I don't know. He was like laughing and smiling, and that's fine. You're happy or whatever. And then it's like, he's like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna win this one for Kiefer," and I'm like, okay, I don't know. That just doesn't sound right. That you're like, I know you know him from the Marlies.
Right.
It just didn't. It just seemed too over exuberant to be so happy. Meanwhile, it's your first game for a new coach. Like, you can say yes, you're excited. It'll be fresh start. Blah blah blah. But I don't know. And then,
Well, and I guess, I mean, they know him from the Marlies, but he's also always been part of the training camp, training staff too. When they have, so they even the players that have not played for him know him. But like, I agree with you that that's kind of over the top, but that speaks to something pretty big,
definitely.
right?
Yeah. But I don't know. I personally think it is more of the fact that Dubas and Babcock, Dubas and Babcock didn't see eye to eye.
No, they're
That's-
definitely not on the same page.
The way they
and-
built the way the players that he's formulated, Babcock basically, maybe he liked some of them, but he wanted more gritty players. And so I remember you telling me so once, the fact that, I think you told me this. It was that you thought that, or you hoped that it wasn't the case, that they were gonna like basically bring our team down. This internal little mini fight that Dubas and Babcock were having, that they'll bring our team down, and basically our team will be shit, and we're gonna have to pay the price for that because of that.
Yeah, because that's that. I really believe that the fact that they weren't, because both of them have such a strong success mindset. Like Babcock, he's been super successful. I mean, his track record speaks to that. He does have that mindset, but his is all about structure, like you said, like the grind,
Yeah.
very specific systems, etc. Dubas he takes a lot from like corporate, and just you can tell he reads a lot about success and the mindset that belongs to and he looks like at all different facets, like not just within sports. And I do think he values creativity, which is why he's basically building the roster that he's building. But when you've got two people that are so strong-minded and they're at odds like this, then what happens is the people who are supposed to execute that, like this happens, this can happen in like a corporation too. The people underneath have no real direction. They don't know what to do because they're being kind of pulled. So it's like being on a hamster wheel. You're like spinning your wheels, or like in the cartoons, when Wile E. Coyote is like spinning, and he can't catch up to the Roadrunner, and he's just like in the same spot, and the Roadrunner is like blasted down the road. Anyway, it's that kind of thing. So that's kind of why I knew that if something was going to change, that Shanahan also would be part of it, because really Shanahan is his vision is what brought these pieces in the first place.
Yeah. And he's like Shanahan obviously was there to tell Babcock basically that he's done. And yeah, he could see that Babcock was not, I guess, for the talent that we have, that he wasn't using it in the proper way, basically, and he was being stubborn about it. That's the whole thing. And I think Shanahan was he was the one that wouldn't, like, to me, they should have fired him after the playoffs last year.
Yeah, I agree.
Right, and rather than wasting this quarter chunk, and now we're going to be in the fight for our life to get into the playoffs.
Honestly, I actually feel that Dubas wanted to do it then.
Yes, I think
and
so.
He did not get permission. And I don't think it was just Shanahan, too. I think also Larry Tannenbaum had something to do with that, because obviously, Babcock went with his letter and everything. That's the person he thanked in the organization. So that speaks to also why he was...
And Morgan Riley. Poor Morgan Riley. They said to him, it was hilarious. They asked him, they said, have you talked to Babcock since the firing? And it's like, he said something, it was funny. He's like, it's not that I didn't talk at all to him, but I haven't talked a lot to him, sort of thing, or something to that effect. I also think the other thing that I think did Babs in was on, I don't know if it was the Vegas game or the game before that. The media was asking him something, and he's like, I'm Mike Babcock, and I'm gonna trust Mike Babcock or something like
he's
that.
Talking about himself in the third person, that he's always going to bet on Mike Babcock.
Yeah. And I think to myself, once, let's say Shanny heard that, it's like, okay, yeah, you're gonna trust Mike Babcock, that's fine, but you need to be a bit more flexible or different in your ways. Obviously, you don't want to be like that, so you're done. So it was I don't know. I liked Mike Babcock because I think that as a person, I think he's a good person, sort of thing, right? Like, some of these former players that are coming out and like, especially this Mike Commodore, if anybody, I'm sure everybody out there probably has heard his tirade on Twitter or somewhere, or they've heard it previously too. But he is not a fan of Mike Babcock. He basically feels like he ended his career, and a lot of former players, Mike Badano, Chris Chelios, like, he's not a lovable person that way as a coach. But
it's old school. And I mean, but at the same time too, Shanahan also played under him.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think if anyone knows what he was getting, he knew that.
Yeah.
However, I would say that would we be in the position that we are for these players to really, shoot out of the gate if we didn't have Babcock from the beginning to, basically build the proper habits, do the teaching that he did? Maybe not.
He took definitely. I mean,
he built the foundation for this, regardless.
And I think that's what Shanahan brought him in for. That was the idea, to bring that structure. But I think people are forgetting the days of where the waffles were thrown on the ice and the jerseys throwing on the ice. Like, Babcock came in just after that. took them to 3 consecutive playoff appearances and 200-point seasons. And the most points, I guess, in 2017-18, he had the
Right.
record.
And
Yeah.
the anticipation of that and the following the planes and all of that and like people tracking it all day long. I mean, it was a really big deal.
Oh yeah, yeah.
For
no,
him to come here in the first
definitely-
place.
He did a lot for our organization, and for that we thank him. But like we said before, he was stubborn in his ways. He had his way of winning. He's a winning coach. He's going to go to the Hall of Fame. So
Oh yeah, he's a Hall of Famer.
he's a Hall of Famer.
The last
And-
thing I would say about that is what I do find interesting is that, you know, since, I don't know, the days where, I don't know, it could have even been back to the 90s. Like, how many Hall of Famers do we have to get to come in here that will actually get this done? Like,
Yeah.
that's something that I think is key, because when these people come in, I do think that, you know, whether it was like, you know, Carlisle, he could be a Hall of Famer. Ron Wilson, maybe not, but even like Cliff Fletcher,
Oh,
they
for
didn't
sure.
get it
Yeah.
done. Pat
Yeah.
Quinn,
Yeah.
Brian Burke,
Yeah.
you know, and now Mike Babcock. All of these people have come in and okay, even Pat Burns, he didn't get it done either. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He's a little bit, I put him in a little bit of different category because he's kind of a little bit of both. But I would say, especially in the most recent times, there's always been someone to come in, and I think they really felt, I'm going to be the one to get this done. But when that happens, then that means it's all about that person. And it can't be about them. It has to be about the process.
Yeah.
And this new thing, which we will talk about a little bit down the road, is the process. So I don't know if that's going to bring it home for us, but it's a different look for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk about the different look with Sheldon Keefe. Who is Sheldon Keefe? So we got a couple points written down here. So if it sounds like we're reading, we are. So, so he was a star player with the Barrie Colts. I had no idea about that. Rookie of the year in 1999. Drafted by Tampa.
A lot of points. He scored a lot of points in junior.
Yeah, drafted by Tampa in 1999 and played 125 games from 2000 to 2003, and then injury cut short his career. And then from there, I guess he had his first coaching job with Pembroke of the Ontario Provincial League, and he had great success there and won the championship from what I remember reading. And then from there, Kyle Dubas, I guess, had been watching him off in the distance and decided mid-season to fire his coach on the Sioux Greyhounds and hired Keefe basically to
It's an
to
interesting.
take over.
I think a lot of people saw there's a video of Kyle Dubas at a conference. I think it was like a stats conference or something. Anyways, how he was talking about how he has used this for success, this type of thing to bring in a new voice. So it's kind of eerie foreshadowing there.
Yeah,
a little
so
bit.
he was actually named OHL and CHL Coach of the Year in 2015. So so he's had great success at the junior level. Obviously, with the Marlies, he brought home the Calder Cup. So he's had success there. So now Kyle Dubas that's the other thing, I guess, it kind of bugs me a little bit. The fact that it's like he's waiting in the wings, like Babcock. Like
Right.
He knew that basically Sheldon Keefe was the replacement, because really, if they didn't have Sheldon Keefe there, would they have still made that change?
Yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
an interesting point.
Right. There's no.
But then it just goes back to the whole vision, you know? So whose vision won out? Dubas's. Right? So I think that Dubas is the one that goes to bed at night dreaming about all of this stuff over and over and over again, and all the workings of it and how to make the change. I think he's the one that his vision is won out, because I think his focus on it, he's put all the pieces in place. So, I mean, it begs the question too, that did Shanahan, know the depth of this vision? And if so, I don't know. I guess it all evolved because I'm sure that when Shanahan, signed Babcock to an 8-year contract, which was the richest that, and it still is the richest that any coach has had, and the term especially, did he do it knowing that this was the way they're going to go? Maybe not. I don't know. I think things evolve.
Probably not. I don't think so. Yeah, things change along the way.
But
right? I think a lot of it had to do with Lou Lamoriello as well, getting rid of him at a certain point.
Yeah, I think Babcock knew as soon as that happened that his
Although
days were numbered somehow.
Yeah, I think that was a mistake. That's going to a different topic. That's too long. He needed to sign our young guys anyways. I think it would have been better to have Lou do that as an experienced person on the contract, but we can save that for another day. Let's get to something more positive now. Okay, which is Austin Matthews. He's on track to score 50 goals. Woohoo!
And when was the last time that's happened, Christine? Well, actually...
Wait, I want to ask you a question. Though.
Sure.
Do you think he will shave this mustache?
I freaking hope so.
I hope so too.
I'm getting tired of it.
Yeah. I'm thinking
it was like a cool, fun thing. I mean, obviously now we have to wait till November is over.
Yes, that's what I think is going to do it. Yeah.
But yeah, no, gotta get rid of that thing.
If he wants freedom, the way he's talking about freedom and being fresh start, get rid of the mustache.
Yeah, but
Austin, if you're listening, get rid of the mustache.
Yeah, we don't like it. Girls don't like mustaches for the most part. I mean, it takes, I don't know what kind of guy you got to be to wear a mustache. For me, the only people that I've liked with a mustache are Tom Selleck and my dad.
Your dad.
End of list.
Yeah, but going back to your other question, who was the last person to score? Well, not the last one, actually. It's the first person to score 50 goals was my favorite player, Rick Vaive. Number 22, or one of my favorite players. Number 22. He scored 54 goals in the 1981-82 season.
And that was like, it was a big deal.
Oh,
but
yeah,
it so runs under the radar nowadays.
Yeah, but it was basically the only deal then, because with Pal Hal, Harold Ballard running the show then, everything was a circus. And really that was the only thing that as a fan that you could attach yourself to.
Talk about egos and making yourself the story. That was the epitome. And that's why I still think sometimes there is a curse.
Yes.
He is the ghost of the Toronto Maple Leafs because no matter what, it just can never
my
ever
aunt
be.
actually said that long time ago.
Yeah.
She told me that. But anyhow, going back to positivity here with the 50 goals. As of last Saturday, no curses.
Right.
As of last Saturday, he scored his 16th goal versus it was the Avalanche that they played. And in game number 25, and he was on pace for 54 goals. So, and then on last night's telecast in the blowout win versus Detroit, they mentioned actually that he's going to be, after Dave Keon was the only Leaf that's done this, 4 consecutive 20-goal seasons in his first 4 seasons.
Wow.
So he's
a special
he's
player.
at 16,
every year he's breaking some sort of record. So
yeah. So the only other people of Leafs that have scored the 50 goals are Gary Leeman. It was so weird to have Gary Leeman, I don't know, and Dave Andreychuk, which you could understandable. That's from,
makes sense.
Yeah,
because he's getting all of the beautiful dishes from Dougie.
Yes, yeah, but Rick Vaive, I remember the 50th goal. It was a huge deal, like you said. I think I was like 12 or 13. I don't know I think it was 13 years old. And I remember 8 p.m. I think it was a midweek game, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, I was downstairs in my pajamas. I had some oranges that my mom peeled for me, and my mom always sets me up good right before game time. And we knew he was going to do it that night, and he did. And when he did score, it was like the slap shot that was back then. They actually took slap shots. I don't think anybody does that anymore, but the slap shot from the top of the circle, and it was in the net. And I took all the peels of the orange and I threw them up in the air and I yelled. And my mom came running in thinking, "What is wrong with you?" From that point, I think she knew I was crazy beforehand about the Leafs, but from that point, that really basically made it even more over the top. So yeah, I'll never forget that.
Who cleaned up the orange peels?
I think I had to. They were all over. I remember they were all, because I used to lie down on the floor and have my pillow there, and I'd be like the the TV was like right in front of me. So like it was just, I had the TV that night. It was funny because when I was a kid too, it was like if nobody in my family is a hockey fan like me. So nobody enjoys hockey. So I was basically on my own. So if there was a game night, I used to go upstairs in my mom's room and have the TV up there. Luckily enough, she had a TV in her room. And then...
And she let you eat in her room?
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's love.
And then, but if there was no shows on, like my sisters always liked The Love Boat or...
we are
Tom
kind of dating
Selleck,
ourselves
you were
here.
saying,
Magnum. Yeah, I watched Magnum. That's
the old
my fave.
Magnum. Yeah. Fantasy Island. I used to watch that once in a while. Those
You know
kind
they're
of shows.
coming out with a Fantasy Island movie, eh?
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's
Oh,
going to be
wow.
actually
I'll
a
have to see
scary, like a
Oh.
thriller.
Oh, no, I don't
Well,
like
I
that.
mean, Fantasy Island, if you like, I don't know if you watched it recently, it's a little bit dark. But they've made it, I think they're going to make it a little bit more,
okay.
creepier. So,
Anyways,
a little bit of a tangent.
if those
there.
shows were on, basically I was shoved upstairs in my mom's little TV, but that was okay because I was nice and comfy. I had her bed there, and I could do whatever. I could watch my game, and I had closed the door, and I'm fine. So yeah, so that was Rick Vaive scoring his 50th goal, and then he had another 2 seasons. So it was 3 in total that he scored 50, and so it's been a long time. If Austin Matthews were to score 50 goals, I don't know. It would.
That would be, I mean, it's been so long.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you think about, okay, Gary Leeman being the last guy to do it,
Yeah.
that's been almost 30 years since someone's done that. That's huge.
Yeah. So, I was actually debating whether or not we should talk about this because we don't want him to get injured.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think he would have done this. We were talking before we started the podcast, but I think he would have done it already in previous years, but the fact that he got injured. So we're rooting for him to do it, to go with this newfound freedom and newfound love for the game that they have now. I think I have a positive feeling about this. I think he's going to get it this time.
Well, I mean, it's prime time for him to take another step to really establish himself as one of the leading scorers, leading players in the league. So, I think that he could do it. And we were discussing, whether or not he will get played, obviously more minutes. I do kind of get the feeling that Keefe is much more about situations and adapting in game. So, we're talking about whether or not he'll put him with Marner more. And I don't necessarily think that he's going to play regular shifts with Marner, but it could happen, situationally at certain parts of the game, kind of like how he's sort of deploying Barry and Riley right now in different situations together, but not necessarily together for the whole game. So we'll kind of have to see when Marner comes back, how he's going to be used, but that's interesting.
About Tyson Barrie.
I know,
there's
right?
There's a guy that's
somebody who had like a huge monkey taken right off his back.
He's been totally unleashed.
Yeah.
3 goals in the first 3 games since the coaching change. And
well, I guess that really also speaks to Babcock is such a strong personality, strong energy that, obviously he told Barry or had wanted Barry to do something specific that Barry is not necessarily accustomed to, not really comfortable with, but to the point where it would weigh on a guy so much. I don't know. It's just so funny how it's so night and day.
Yeah, that's where I think the coaching style of Babcock, it was not good. Let's say for a player, they brought him in for a reason. It was to play his game. It wasn't to learn a different game, which is how Babcock put it at one point. Right. No, it's not about reinventing himself, as he put it. He was brought in to bring that offensive carrying the puck. I think we said it in episode 1. We said what the style of game that Tyson Barrie brings, and that's what we look forward to. We saw a flash of it in game 1 where he did that little spinorama, and everybody in the building at Scotiabank Arena was like, oh, right? And it was like, wow. And
Yeah, and then
we
then
never
it
saw it
disappeared.
again until now for the
Right.
first for these 3 games. So yeah, so hopefully that'll continue. And yeah, so
And I loved seeing how happy the team was for him. Like when JT basically,
yeah,
bear hugged him,
yeah,
to coin a phrase.
yeah.
That was like amazing, like how happy they were for him to be getting that goal. So
So looking ahead to December, it'll be interesting to see what direction this team goes. We
Yeah.
definitely have to pick up some points here because, like we said, last night we were 10th in the conference, so we're out of the playoff picture right now. But it's the teams that I'm worried about. Tampa, they have 4 games in hand on like almost everybody because they did the European trip. So they have 4 games in hand and they seem to be playing well. And also Florida. Florida is right now is in second behind
and that's
Boston.
without Bobrovsky
Yes,
even playing
that's-
at his best.
That's what's the weird thing about it is Bobrovsky, if he happens to go back to his usual ways of playing, like that's a big concern.
But I don't know. It's interesting. It's like it's wondering whether or not they're going to actually break through this year because they've been kind of waiting in the wings for a while now. So
Yeah, so
I was happy to see that Montreal's on a bit of a skid. That's kind of good.
that's kind of good. I actually wanted to send Max Domi. I wanted to tweet him and ask him how he's feeling because he has such a big mouth, that kid, just like his dad. But anyways, we'll move on from that because we're not talking about the Habs here. We never talk about the Habs. Mitch Marner hopefully will return as well. That'll
Yep.
be a good. He's looking good. He's practicing his shot. He said yesterday or the day before that he's looking forward to, or he's progressing well, is how he said it. So
Right. Well, he doesn't have his boot on anymore, so that's good.
yeah.
Hello. Sorry about that.
Yeah, we had some cat issues, some meowing in the background, but
I don't know.
he's okay now.
So it's ladies and a cat talking Leafs.
Yeah, woohoo! Okay, so yes, Marner returning, so that should be good. With regards to the schedule, lots of road games still. So we have,
We're going to be jam packed at home come March. Really.
yeah. So we have 8 road games, including the New Year's Eve game. Woohoo! Party time, New Year's Eve, watching the Leafs.
In Minnesota.
Yeah. And then it'll be interesting to see the backup goalie situation, how it's handled. We have 2 back-to-backs, and one of them...
That just seems like not very many.
No, yeah, not after what we just went through.
Finally.
And of course, and we have the West Coast swing coming up in the second week of December. Lots of Leaf fans in Western Canada, which are Western Canada fans. They just love us out there.
That's right. And they're going to be wanting to file into all the arenas to get a glimpse of our new look Leafs.
Oh yeah, that's
Keef's
for sure.
Leafs.
That's why they should be happy that there's so many Leaf fans because we pay to get into those rinks, so into those arenas. That otherwise, who's gonna go, right? Leaf fans. That's, who's gonna go to their games, right? Like it's we pay their bills out there for us.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all we got for this month. We want to again, happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas,
Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah,
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year too. Yes, because we won't be back until early January.
That's right.
So we'll talk to you guys then. Go Leafs, go.
Go Leafs, go.